Hello and welcome to another episode of Soul Nectar Show, that show where we talk about all things essence, where we gather around the fire and we share our stories of connection to that which is bigger than us, to the great mystery, to those synchronistic moments that begin to unfold for us a whole new perception of life, and to that connection with the consciousness that is pretty much in everything, and we're all connected to it as part of the oneness. I'm your host, Carrie Hummingbird, and I love these discussions. I really love the magic, the mystical moments, the experiences, and how we can sample each other's journeys. It's just really gratifying and illuminating. And I hope that it gives you hope and excitement as you listen in every week. I hope that it really adds to your enjoyment of your own life, and I welcome you to it. And of course, if you want to take this kind of journey and you really want to go deeper into your own journey and just have a community to do that in, well, you're going to find out about a couple of opportunities to do that with Gene Keys, which is our topic for today. And of course, you can check out my website if you want to check out my programs, carriehummingbird.com, Kerri, hummingbird.com. I welcome you to a conversation. So today I have Tanmayo Lawson with us. Welcome, Tanmayo.
Thank you so much. It's delightful to be here.
So this amazing woman, oh my goodness sakes, when I connected with her, I was like, oh, soul sister. She is an international speaker and a presenter with over 30 years experience in the field of wellness, self-inquiry, and transpersonal study. After decades of her own vocation as a spiritual teacher and mentor, Tanmayo discovered Richard Rudd and Gene Keys in 2004. She was so fascinated by this ingenious system, which we're going to learn more about today, that she immersed herself in the wisdom and is now a part of the presenting team to share it with the world. And this is just so exciting. I just have to say, I found Gene Keys and I started listening. I got my free report on the website, genekeys.com, and I started listening to the contemplations that Richard Rudd has recorded for each of the Gene Keys. And as I'm listening, I'm like, that's me. Oh my gosh, this is exactly what I think about. This is what I think about all the time. These are the things and situations that come to me. This is what I'm so concerned with. It's like he's reading me like a book. It's just crazy. So I know that this is probably what happened to you, which is why you got sucked into the community and like just got so excited by it. But first, I do want to find out about you and your journey, because your journey, this is part of your journey, but your journey is so well beyond this experience, even though this is fascinating right now. But you've had a lot of experience even before this showed up. So I want to hear more about you, and then we'll get into the Gene Keys. Tell us about you. How did you get started with all this work?
Oh boy, that's a
whatever key pieces you want to pull.
Well, we could start with something that my mother often says. The nurses in the hospital used to say, that child is fae. In Scotland, where I'm from, and then from my grandparents, fairies were a very special thing, and there was a deep connection with the other world beyond the veil. So when somebody said a bairn is fae, a child is fae, they're also saying, that there's a spiritual light there. She belongs to the other folk, the old folk. So I think that quality has been there a long time. And I remember certain things from childhood that were so pertinent to the rest of my life. And I think at some point during probably, I think one of the real awakenings for me in a really strong conscious way was in 87, when we went through the Harmonic Convergence. It was just like this light switch went on from one day to the next. And it was like, oh my God, I've got work to do. It was just, I was kind of dawdling along. I mean, I was already teaching and, doing lots of meditation, and I was really involved with learning all kinds of things, kinesiology and hypnosis and, blueprint series and, yeah, but somehow everything really shifted in 87. It was like a hearing that clarion call. For some people call us the first wave. There's that moment where it's like, oh my God, you know, I really am here for this. It's not just some idea that I keep at the back of my mind. You know, there's a wake up call for humanity, and I'm part of it. So I would say 87 was like this moment of there was no more hiding. And one of the things that you and I talked about that actually has to do with this question that you're asking me, I mean, I'm doing big skips, so we don't need all this information about me really, but in somewhere in the late 80s or early 90s, I was fortunate enough to meet somebody called Dakishawa. She's left the body now. She's Seneca Wolf Clan. She was known as Grandmother Kitty. And she was quite a powerful woman. And she was here in Australia. And I had been having these extraordinary experiences with spirit form with Native Americans. And it was very confusing for me because I would think, what's all this about? I'm a Celt. You know, I come from the northeast of Scotland. I don't know anything about, you know, Native Americans and you know, and then as I'm having a conversation with one that's sitting in the corner of my room, you know, so that was another one of those kind of things that had happened since 87 that I couldn't deny anymore. You know, it was so powerfully present in my life. And there was something about Kitty. I did a medicine wheel weekend with her, and she was a very strong woman. She was 66, I think. So she was almost the same age as I am now when she was in Australia. And my recollection is that she was Grandmother Twyla's legs, because Twyla was already, I think, maybe even 80 by then, and had just sent her around the world with the teachings. And there were certain things that would happen in Medicine Wheel, and I would kind of try and not exactly say, you know, what I was seeing or what I wanted to, you know, what was really there. I would kind of make it something else. And she just nailed my little toes to the floor. You
I
know, there
love
were,
that.
oh, she just called me out like you would not believe. We don't have time for you to carry on like this. You need to sort yourself out. You are needed now. You are not given this wisdom, you know, to sit there and pretend. And I'm sitting there going, you know, I know that it's true, but, you know, I'm in a room full of people. I'm often the only person in my circle that hears a call, and I go to the call. Nobody else in my circle is there. So I'm in this big circle of people I've never met before. And Kitty's wiping the floor with me, you know, telling me to shape up. So there were powerful experiences in those early years that said, okay, I better find out what's going on here, you know? Yeah.
I
And
love
that,
that. And I
yeah.
love the story that you shared though with me. If you're willing to share it, I would love for you to share your connection.
Uh, this was in 92. I think this is the story you're talking about. In 92, I had been back in Scotland. I'd been living in Australia. My relationship with my husband had come to a close, often the case that sometimes happens for us on this journey. And I also want to say that I think I love him as much today as I ever did. I'm not one of these people that, you know, I don't have any degrees of separation. It was an amazing journey with him. And it was also really clear that where he was going and where I was going, they're both the same places spiritually, but how we need to walk on the red road is not the same. So I was on my way back from Scotland with my younger sister. She's 5 years younger than me. And we stopped in Hong Kong and we'd had some fun. And I had woken up early and I was meditating. And suddenly in front of me, I see this white buffalo, clear, just totally standing there in front of me as a white buffalo. And I'm invited to put my left hand on the buffalo's forehead. And as I did that, the buffalo became this perfectly, beautifully balanced Native American woman. And she just looked straight at me. And under her arm, she had a buffalo skull, which she laid at her feet. And she looked straight into my eyes and she said, Unity, you will talk of unity. And it was just such an extraordinary wow kind of moment that I wrote it all down. And then we got to Australia, and I have been good friends with a woman called Anne Keeler, and she was deeply involved with the Seneca grandmothers, especially Kitty, and many other Native American traditions had come into her life. She's a New Zealander and has a strong relationship with the Maori people also.
Mm.
So there's, there are these old, ancient lineages that are coming to the fore, and we start to realize it doesn't matter what skin we're in this time. That was the real understanding that really came to me through all of these, particularly Red Cloud. Used to turn up and just sit in my corner of my room as much as they did you get it yet? So extraordinary things came out of that. But so Anne was hosting. When I came back, I let her know I was back, and she was very involved with holding the staff in the south for the Seneca Wolf Clan. That was my understanding of it in a way. And I know there are some controversies around these things in different political circles that makes me smile. You get it even in other traditions. And this is a long time ago. So I called and said, I'm here. And she said, great, you need to come because we have Grandfather Morning Owl here, or he's known as Jim Barnett. And he was not Native American born in this life. My memory of this is that he had been a Vedanta monk for many, many years. And he was part of a group of people that gave a lot of his energy to bringing ceremony back to Native American people. So he'd been recognized in some places as a pipe carrier and given this name. But more than that, he was a visionary artist, which I didn't know. So she said, we're having a gathering this weekend, please come. So my sister and I went, and I'm in the kitchen with Anne, and we're washing dishes or making coffee, or goodness knows what we're doing. And I was telling her about this vision that I'd had and that I'd written down. And she said, you need to go and tell Morning Owl. And I'm going, what? I felt like a little child. I'm going to tell him that. And it's like telling your teacher something good happened to you. But she said, you need to go tell him. So, okay, so I went through and sat down with him and told him what had happened. So he asked one of the beautiful people that was with him in attendance, taking care of him, to go and get whatever it was. So they came back with this painting. And some months before, he had received a phone call from a woman who said, you need to go into ceremony because you need to paint this. So what he showed me was White Buffalo Calf Woman. And he had painted her. He'd fasted and gone into ceremony for himself and painted this extraordinary painting that unfortunately in this moment I can't show you because it's in storage in Scotland. But as soon as I can, I'm going to ask my sister, or I'm going to eventually get there when the world changes again, and I will send it to you. But here she is exactly as I saw her, standing in the center of this frame, White Buffalo Calf Woman. At her feet is a buffalo skull, and the words that he was given to write under it said unity. And I was just completely blown away, as you can imagine. So needless to say, he had several prints made, and I have one of them which is framed, and it used to live above my bed for a long time. And it's very dear to me, that connection. And it sort of brought, and around his painting, you know, is the sacred hoop, and all the creatures from all dimensions are held within the painting. And to me, that just speaks of my life. You know, it's that fellowship of man, it's that Aquarian nature. It's all the connections, you know, from Atlantis and Lemuria and wherever, Arcturus, all of these places, all these streams of consciousness that flow through us, all just waiting to be spoken and heard. So those are some of the steps along the way. And of course, it led me through my own inquiry and to pull apart some of the inner contractions that we're all looking to do to expose our hearts and our true nature as love. led me to presenting groups. And it was through presenting groups that I eventually found my feet finding Richard Rudd.
Oh, wow. You see, I'm so glad you shared that story. I know everybody out there too is very glad. I mean, it's such a beautiful experience to have a connection with the divine in that way, and then to have it affirmed so concretely is just like, okay, I can't deny it anymore. I got to pay attention. This is real. It's not making this up. And then you can act on it because you can bring yourself into it more with that conviction and that certainty. And and then I love that you got, like, hey, come on, get to work. You got, share your gifts. So wow. So when you so I mean, like, this is what you came into it with, and then you met Richard Rudd. And from what I understand, Richard Rudd had been working on this Gene Keys stuff. He downloaded it like 30 years or something, like, I don't know how long, but like a long time, right? Like, how long has that been?
Well, the history of it is in human design. He was very deeply involved with Ra and wrote some of the early books. And I feel like, he had his own transmissions of living light prior to even meeting Ra. Just as, I've told you one story, and I could tell you so many others that just built up to say, this is what you are here to do. This is vocational. And there's nothing you can do about that, and some people don't maybe like to know about their path of destiny, but my experience is, if I look back, you can see the path regardless of what I was doing. And I really want to say that to all the listeners. Whatever might be going on in your life at this moment, I discover I am always in the right place at the right time, even if it looks like a right mess. It might look like a right mess, but it's actually in its rightness for your evolutionary presence and consciousness. So I can see that stream. So Richard had that, or had those enlightening, filled with light moments when he was quite young. And then, he went on his own life journey, opening and probably forgetting and remembering and forgetting and remembering, like we all do, but yet we never really forget. And so he found himself after some other journeys with Ra. So there's that foundational piece that came through that extraordinary wisdom of human design that we all needed, which was also transmitted, in 87. So it made a lot of sense, that lightning bolt that came through in 87 and just woke up a whole swathe of the planet to say, come on, kids, there's work to do here, So Richard had that, and I think that the transmission of the gene keys kind of just flowered and blossomed in him, because he's a poet and a bard. He's a very different quality of being than Ra. Ra came in to go, hey, we need basics and mechanics, and he's a different quality of person, strategic and magical in a Ra way. And Richard it's almost like the divine feminine flows through him, actually. That would be the real difference in the presences that you experience when working with them. And, when I met him, I went to we'll call it the first official Gene Keys workshop, which was actually called the Venus sequence, and the Venus sequence is the love sequence. And in those days, there was no book and no website. There was just this man and his friend that he was working with at that time, Werner Pitzel, that I love and adore. And his wife, Laura, I think, was also there. I've met them since then many times. And I was just there thinking, I have no idea what I'm doing here, but I knew absolutely the guidance that brought me there. Again, through following my errant feet and my nose, I tracked that transmission and found this guy and found where the workshop was. And again, I was the only person there that nobody knew. Well, how did you get here? I followed the energy. What?
Yeah, in
There's nothing.
87, people have been like, ah.
No, that wasn't 87.
Okay.
That wasn't, no, 87 was when Rob brought through the
The
transmission of
transmission.
of the human design. This was in, I think it was 2004, 2005, before Richard gave the first Venus. But even then, they kind of
Even
looked at
then.
me very strangely.
Yeah.
Um, and there was a little chart which had the streams of consciousness on it. And those of you who don't know what that is, I really invite you to look at genekeys.com, and you'll start to see that we have this chart, and that every gene key, you know, is being, there's a stream of consciousness flowing through each of these gene keys. And there's 3 words that give you the shadow, the gift, and the siddhi that are involved with this gene key that is our living tissue, actually. So I would look at this chart and see these things on this chart, and something started to open in me as he would talk. And I mean, I was just so astonished, like you. It was like I would hear him talk about my particular keys, and it was as if he had penetrated to the core of my being. And I thought, oh my God, he's really speaking about me. There's no, oh, if maybe, you know. It's like I spent years exploring Enneagram and on MBTI and all kinds of other things, which are all marvelous, and I deeply love them. In the early days, though, of Enneagram, like, and we are talking 80s now, you know, it was much more about the fixation. And I was never interested. And the same with MBTI at that time. My experience was this is all about the conditioning, about the personality. Where is the juice? Where's the essence? Give me the essence, or this has no value to me. You know, what is hidden in these properties? And there was something even then, before we had all of the paths that we do now in Gene Keys, that just spoke to me about, wow, this is the new work for the future generations. This is what we need as a humanity, but very much those of us who remember, or who are about to remember who we are. This is something that gives us a map and a compass, you know, with the profile and the keys and the stream of consciousness. But what it's also doing is inviting us in. We have to come in. You know, we've been so conditioned to look out. You know, and Gene Keys, and I just kept going. That's the simplicity, you know, that I did that workshop. I took away the things that were given to me there. But during that weekend, all the pieces of that profile, it was like watching dominoes fall. You know, there was one afternoon that I was just completely broken open, sitting in a garden in Somerset in this workshop, with only one woman there really understanding the depth of what I was going through, that she got it. Wow, she's just, it's whatever was there that I came in with was just wide open and raw, actually. It was just so qualitative in that moment. So I took that away, and then I started giving workshops. I mean, I made it, because at that time he actually said, this transmission of the Venus belongs to the women. You know, he said, this is a deeply feminine transmission. I mean, now over time that's changed, because, you know, sometimes we say things 20 years ago, or I look at things I've written and go, oh God, did I really write that? You know, but that was in that context of that time. And that's the same with any author or anybody with a website. You know, at least with a website you can update, but if it's written in a book, you're a little bit stuck with what you said then.
Oh,
That
I
you
know
might,
that part.
of course, that you might not say now, you know.
Yeah.
And
Because
then
you're evolving your own
yeah,
understanding of it too. Even if you're the one that's channeling it or getting the message, you're still also evolving your container and your understanding of it.
yes. And that's what was happening for Richard. He'd had this huge download, and he was already busy writing the book at that time, although it took him 7 years. But I
Well,
could
it's a
see,
big book. It's like this
yeah,
big.
600 pages, you know, 64 keys and 600 pages. But there was something there. It was like, for me, when I look back now, when I think of what age I was then and what age he was then, I was just coming off the roof. You know, I mean, for those of you who are not so familiar with terminology, it's part of of the profiling, shall we say, you know. So I'm what's called a six-line being, and we have a tendency to be on the roof because there's a visionary aspect to us. We're looking to the future to see what will serve our house. And for me, the house is a galactic house. You know, I'm an Aquarian, sun in the fourth house, you know, so I just immediately looked at this man and I thought, he is really seeded with something extraordinary. And it was kind of like, and it's like it just came into me as he was talking through that weekend, and it just all made sense. And I just knew, I just felt like in fact, to say I have a choice would be silly, you know?
I know those moments. Like, I know we have free will.
Yeah.
To not say yes when you know it's your thing you're here to do is so uncomfortable. You pretty much have to say yes.
Yeah, and I think it was maybe, I'm just thinking it was maybe Krishnamurti who said, in the end, there is no choice.
Yeah.
And people, the mind doesn't like to hear that, but it's just as you said, you know, in some moment of deep surrender, not only are you the river, you are the flow and you are the banks, and you know that there is nothing to interfere with this flow. This is where the ocean is taking me in this moment. You know, so then in 2007, he offered the Pearl in London, which I attended. And then 2009, we had the book, and that was like so exciting then. You know, and now, well, the rest's history, isn't it? It's a growing, living community. This is the point of the Gene Keys. You know, the Gene Keys approach, you know, the Gene Keys approach, actually, I could say that we are a contemplative community. Now, that doesn't sound very sexy, does it?
I think it does because I'm all about contemplating things.
Yeah, it's like, it's like, so for some people, it's like, oh, you're a contemplative community. It's like, then I just feel like we have to go in. That's what contemplation is. And thank you so much for saying, yes, it does sound sexy. But it's like when it's only in going in that we release our vital life force. You know, we need that map and that compass until we realize we are the map and the compass. You know, and Richard's very clear about that too in his book, you know, when he talks about Buddha and the raft. But first of all, we all need some kind of stepping stone. It's like any journey that we go on, you know. At the very least, I'm going to India. At the very least I need to do is find out where there's an airport, even if I'm not going to find out anything else before I go. I need to book a ticket. So I need something. So we have this great profile in this book and all of these extraordinary resources that he's created through the 7 sacred seals and other things. But most importantly, for me, my journey is I'm really just living what existence gives me to live, which is these words being spoken to you right now. So the best of my ability, I'm showing up to speak them wherever I'm asked. And in this contemplative community, there is this vitality of life. You know, I just think back over the last many years, let's say, you know, 35 or 40, that I've been aware of the game we're in, let's put it like that, and the way that I am, is to see that so much focus has been put on the outside, you know, looking for purpose. You can't find purpose on the outside. You find purpose on the inside. And this is part of the living transmission, is bringing you to see what is your unique genius that is going to lead you to your authentic presence, to the purity of your own nature, where there is nobody like you. There's just not. It doesn't matter if we have the same gene keys or we're at this or at that. They are all labels. And ultimately, all of those labels are going to disappear. And this is the quality of the city, the essential state that's constantly there calling us, and to realize that the core of that essence is in the shadow. You know, we're always looking to not own our shadows. We're not taught that. We're taught, I don't know about most people out there, but you know, my experience of my life and many others is that our parents and their grandparents and their grandparents, you know, we have been evolving. We are an evolving collective presence. And in that evolutionary process, there's also been a crisis of evolution. And we're here now, invited into this quantum reality to say, hey, there is nobody else to wait for. I'm the one. I'm the one that I've been waiting for. I am the beloved I've been looking for. You know, and it's that process of welcoming that shadow home with the Gene Keys approach, you know, which is gentleness and inquiry and contemplation and patience. And we need that for ourselves because we know how it is to feel victimized or oppressed. And also we know how it is to oppress and make others and victimize others. You know, we don't get to just have one experience of these. When I look inside, I know that I have been the perpetrator of all of them. And to welcome it all and bring it all home and to love it well, so that this abandoned aspects of spirit, abandoned aspects of essence can just be gathered up and brought home, so that there comes a point of waking up in the morning and just liking you, regardless of what happened the day before. And this also breaks down the inner judge, this inner commentary that, you know, undermines you or makes you superior or makes you less and compares you. It just starts to fade because it's a false
It
prophet.
is because this is what White Eagle, I channel from White Eagle in my book, The Second Wave, was we each have a unique thumbprint. And to help us to not forget that, that's why we have it on our bodies, like the
Yeah.
thumbprint. So you look at your hands and you, oh, that's right, I'm unique. I forgot.
Yeah.
You know, because we forget, we start comparing and we start looking and, you know, oh, I want that, or I like that, or how come I don't have that, or and really it's like the inward journey that this is totally the transition into the age of Aquarius, which is why we're inviting the divine feminine back in. And this is why this kind of teaching is like so juicy and right on point, is because we are all receiving this guidance in our very bodies that, hey, go inside, go inside, go inside. Stop trying to go out there. Go in here. I mean, we even got quarantined, you know, she's just like Mother
Yeah.
just like sent us to our rooms and said, hey, go think about some stuff, you know, like contemplate some things. So I
And
love that.
yeah, and I really love that you use the word juicy, because that's a word that I often use. You know, and this is the thing about going in and about really noticing our attachments to distractions. You know, there's nothing, you know, we're not, I don't need to be entertained to go in anymore. You know, it's like I don't need a certain container that jazzes me up, or, you know, any of those things. I mean, and that's great if that's there and I can enjoy it. But contemplative practice is simply presence. It's moment after moment. And the deeper I go in, the more alive I am, the more juice I have. You know, I can't imagine ever feeling more alive and vital and passionate about my life in a pure way without, I mean, I can look at pictures of when I was whatever 20 or 30 and I can look there and have a little lament at that really gorgeous figure that was there. That's those have long since been given away and the others are hiding in the back of the cupboard, you know, because I'm enjoying the fullness and the presence of life regardless of what I think I should be like. And also, I had a picture of myself and my son on a mantelpiece of a house I used to live in Bath. It's one of my favorite pictures of my son and I, 1988. And we were at the World Expo that was on in Brisbane. And we had the most glorious day together, and I love the picture. And one of my clients was looking at the picture whilst I was bringing some tea after the session. And I said, that's my favorite picture. She said, yes. She said, you're very young and you're very beautiful and you're just not there. And I thought, wow, isn't that amazing? She is seeing the youth and that. But you see, as a sixth line, also at that time, I wasn't fully embodied. And I think one of the beautiful things to remember, not only about lines and things and about vital life force, sometimes I say there's something that happens that it's in your bones ultimately. It never stops. This ongoing opening. And these gene keys, these spheres that we're traveling through on this golden path, you know, these are our life codes. They're our living light and life codes. And it's this inner contemplation, this going in that allows you all this juice to go out, you know? So it's the very opposite of what we've been taught in one way. And so, yeah, and these life codes that are in the golden path, you know, in your profile, you are seeing which of these enormous planets of wisdom are also, which key is nested in there, you know, and what's transiting through the neutrino flow to light us up today. So for me, that's the greatest thing in the world to be part of. And this, thank you for saying, at the age of Aquarius, as we move deeper in there.
Well, and I love that you said everything you said too at the beginning about how like this unlocked for you like 1987, you know, it just like came out and that it was available, you know, like the well, the gates were available, but that the human design type and all of that was available. And I was just graduating high school. It was not available for me. And it was not available in my 20s or in my 30s or in my 40s. And it didn't show up until I was ready
Yeah.
to see it. And like, I think like 49, like I'm about, you know, I'm in my, my return. So like 49, 50, 51, I'm 51 now. That is when all of this started, like I'm just like in it, like, oh, this is what I need to know right now because I'm ready, you know, this second wave. And so I love that because it definitely coincides with like Dolores Cannon and kind of like the information she gave us about the waves of volunteers and when people are waking up is exactly when they need to wake up because they're part of an orchestration. You know, there's like an orchestration or like a, you know, a plan. There's a plan.
And I love that you've mentioned that too, because for me it brings up a lot of things. The first one is often and I have heard people say, "Oh, that's my dog. Are you okay, Dawn?" Yeah. Often I hear people say, "Oh, they're just, you know, they're just not there yet. They're just not ready yet," and they don't hear that that's actually said in some kind of deprecating, judgmental way. And it's okay to say, well, that person's not interested. It's not their walk at the moment. But because if their walk comes in this embodied form, it will come when their life codes opens up. And I often feel it's those people who are not on the same wavelength or path or whatever as I am, I have to often lay down at their lotus feet because I can be so triggered by what I'm hearing or so in judgment that suddenly I'm back in them and us. And it's like, if as long as I'm doing them and us, I am just as asleep as I was on the first day.
Exactly, exactly the message I just got. I shared with you before we got on the broadcast that that I got in ceremony is that I was holding so much judgment for humanity, for humans, normal mainstream humans, you know?
Mhm.
And
Yes.
I was having so much judgment. And I know this is a light worker thing, you know, a lot of us have this.
Yeah.
And it's the realization that what you damn damns you back, you know, what you hold out of the light holds you
Yeah.
out of the light. And so I said, you know what, God, fine. God, source creator, great spirit, whatever your names you want to use. I admit humanity is 100% love. It can be no other than that. It already is there. It already got there. It's love. And all we're doing right now is gaining wisdom, learning about each other, learning about ourselves. We're just earning wisdom. That's it. So the love is there. And the moment I made that decision, it's like the whole room lit up in ecstasy and they didn't know what I said, you know, but the love came in the room because I made the decision. I was like, yes, this is worthy of love. And the whole conversation of worth is just ridiculous too, because it's just a
It's good.
construct. It's not true. We already are love. We can't be anything other than that. So now what? So we don't have to spend any more time suffering over not being worthy of love. We can just move right into, I am love, and hey, I'm unique. I want to find out how love is expressing as me. That's a whole
Yeah.
different conversation.
Years ago, one of my teachers that I absolutely still love and adore, his name's Faisal, and his teachings are called the Diamond Logos School. He and was friends and partners with um, Hamid Ali from the Ridwan School, the Diamond Approach. Anyway, you maybe don't know anything about that, doesn't matter.
I
But
don't. That's
he was
okay.
born, he was born in Kuwait, and he went to school in Berkeley and basically became enlightened. That's the short story. But I remember this piece from him, and I'm going to say this is as I remember it, because I may not be exactly correct. But I remember something of an interview where was saying that awakening happens in the mind, enlightenment happens in the heart.
Mm.
And I've always taken that in as a breath, because I think of how powerful the heart is. It's our most powerful medicine if we can only listen. And of course, we have a central channel that opens up all these pieces so that we're coming into deep alignment, the head, the heart, and the belly. That opening through the solar plexus that continues to open up the throat, in all of the crystal caverns, so that we are that flowering of light form that we truly are, because we are space and light. And that we cannot skip the shadow aspects.
Mm. It's
We
almost like
are,
going into the shadow that
yes,
actually unlocks the access. Because
yes,
in that journey, I had to go into the shadow of my judgment, which is one of my
yes,
gene keys. And so
yes,
I had to go into the shadow of all of my judgment. It shouldn't be this way. People shouldn't act this way. They're not high vibration enough. Like all of that. Like they're so low vibe. They're so toxic. All those judgments. It was like, then in that, and in the admitting of that, and in the energy of that, and in like the deep of that, then that's the mud, right? And
yes,
then I said, okay, I admit it. They're already love. And it just whoosh, and it just was like an orgasm. It was like a
yes,
spirit gasm across the whole room. It's great.
yes.
So I guess
I
that was a moment of enlightenment then from this particular. So, hey, cool guys, I just had a moment of enlightenment. That's so cool. And I keep experiencing it.
they're called Satori moments, this
Ooh.
beautiful word, Satori. And it's something that I've been leading for a long time. I lead something called an awareness intensive, which is like 3.5 days and an 8-day, much more deeply intense Zen style meditation retreat with koan practice and body movements. But it's very strict and a one way and contained. So the mind absolutely freaks out. All the rebels are, but then
It doesn't like it.
it's Osho, like that I'm a sannyasin, and that I had a great divine love affair with that transmission that came through Osho. And one of the things I remember him saying is that the higher you go up or the further you go out, and one breath, the more deep you will also go in.
Mm.
So and to realize that it's very easy to start clinging. Once you have that Satori moment, whatever that lightning flash, or we would call it a acidic flash, maybe if we're playing in gene keys, but those moments of epiphany or that ecstatic experience, the aftermath can be quite devastating, because there are states and stages to this. There's no arrival to the quantum field that I live in, or that I suspect that you're living on, or we're all living in. It's an ever evolving, boundless experience of pure being. And in that experience, those lightning flashes, those Satori moments, afterwards, for some people, there can be a very strong rebound,
Mm-hmm.
because it fills your cells with a certain elixir, and every one of those acidic states has a certain quality that is unique to that stream. So it's opened up your cellular matrix. It's filled some more of the starry points in your Merkaba, or in the collective Merkaba. The tapestry is gleaming, but then life comes back for the next wave, and suddenly you might find yourself in rebound. You know, it's a bit like that elastic band. You've expanded out, but there's all of your ancestral memory that still needs to be held within that expansion, and there's maybe more work to do, and then the elastic band goes and suddenly you're back. You know, that sparkling moment, that absolute ecstatic experience, and then you want to grasp it, you know, like
Yeah.
we want to hang on, you know, whatever. And of course we can't, you know, it's like water flowing through your hands.
Yeah, I
So
learned that lesson so powerfully because I have the intoxication gene key as well. And so
mhm.
I've played with this my whole life. I've done this dance of like, oh, it's so juicy, it's so there, it's so and then it's like the contraction. Ah, it's terrible. You know. So I kind of learned how to mm, like let it flow, like let go of that old thing and go, okay, that was so gorgeous. And then I tell the story and then I can revisit it, but then I'm like back here. It's like I've learned how to move with that energy so that I allow the contraction to be more gentle. So it doesn't have to be so like rubber band, like snapping, like you talked about.
Yes. And
It's
that's
only when
beautiful.
you're really rigidly holding on that like it snaps, I think. It's more,
Yeah.
whew. And you accept like the ocean goes out, the ocean comes in. The ocean goes out, the
Yeah.
ocean comes in.
The thing is, it can be painful in the body, you know, because the expansion when it comes gives such a spaciousness in the body. And so, you know, when you're coming to embodiment, this is part of the journey. That sometimes the rebound, maybe it doesn't snap in that way, but you know, but it contracts.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it contracts. It's kind of like you expand and then you contract, but the contraction never goes back as far as it was in the
Mm-mm.
beginning. But it feels more painful because you're more aware. And then it's a great space for the judge to come in. See, you couldn't really do it, could you?
Yeah, you couldn't hold it.
You couldn't.
Look how you acted.
Yes, you know. So
You went
it's
back
good.
to your unconscious behavior.
So it's good to
Yeah.
remember that inner, you know, that inner critic is can be powerful there to undermine, or on the other direction, you know, we would then get the spiritual bypassing. You know, excuse me whilst I polish my halo. You know,
I have no more of that stuff anymore.
I know, but it's cute, isn't it? It's like, I mean, they're the same
Yeah.
reaction. You know, one goes to the bypass. Oh, I am love. You know, and it is like, please, I have to breathe just for a minute, you know. And but that's one, you know, the personality and the conditioning that we will all hold. We learn how to protect ourselves. And one of the greatest, I would say, I don't know, I'm going to say pitfalls, shall we say, on the voyage of this awakening, is that there for many years I started to see that all I was really doing was subtly altering the conditioning so that it was more refined. You know,
Ah, yes.
that is so cool when you see yourself in that. You know, so I
Yes.
laugh at these things like i
Mm.
I don't want to be like my mother, as I'm reading My Mother Myself and wanting it to throw it across the room. And the older I get, and I have three sisters, and we all look at each other and go, yes, we have become our mother, you know. And there's a to surrender to the beauty of that also can only happen if I move through mommy dearest. You know, I have to, you know, I am so grateful for that in my life, that my inner process has allowed me to really be there and love my mother,
Yeah,
you
that's the
know.
path. That is the true path I've realized, you know, because of course I've been led there too by White Buffalo Calf Woman, as you know. And no, she tapped me after the other book got done and said, "You're going to do this." I was like, "Okay." And I thought it would be like that book, like 3 months and done, right? Publish it by the end of the year. Little manifester. Nice try. So
Oh,
I mean, I feel like, well, at this point, I feel grateful for the journey because it
mm,
brings it back around again. And all these insights, all these moments of understanding, these contemplations that I arrive at, they all unlock another piece so that
yeah,
it's like it takes more crust off my heart. And then I can go, oh, and then I expand how much I can love, how much I can forgive, how much I can be in presence. And then it also unleashes the next level of stuff. Like, so then there's a digging deeper. So it's, and I don't have any illusions that I'm like done because I'm
yeah,
still in a body. I'm not done. So like as you were contemplating, as you were sharing something about how like you published the book and then it's already out of date. I fully realize that. Like I've been so trying to perfect this book and bring like my new level of understanding to it and my new level of understanding to it and my new level of understanding. Like every week I have a new level of understanding. We can't really, I mean, I think at some point you just have to publish it and in the notes say, this is already out of date. You know, like
I think that's beautiful.
I'm
I mean,
sharing it with you, it's already out of date.
yeah. One of the things, I mean, I take my absolute hat off to you because I've never got to finish anything that looks like a book. And if I had a $1 for every time people say to me, will you please write? So I imagine that at some point, whilst I'm still in body form, that will happen. It just hasn't happened yet. But when I am doing something, whether it's I'm recording something, because in Gene Keys, we're in the midst of our second deep dive. And, for my own facial harmony, this conscious aging work that I do, I'll be doing something for that. And and Gene Keys, we're about to start the Venus sequence. So Richard and I are busy with the webinars and what needs to be spoken. And that's a new area for me. So I'm getting used to it. But when I think, just like we've just said, I think to myself, so it's done. Then I think, oh yeah, I listened to it, which is being painful. I'm getting used to that too. And I think, oh, I didn't say that and I missed out that and I could definitely have said that better. And there's one thing that comes to mind, and I'm an old rocker, like when you were talking about first waves and people of my generation and older, but in my generation, we had people like called the Beatles and the Rolling
Oh
Stones.
yeah, I love the Beatles. Yeah.
You were either a Beatle or you were either a mod or a rocker, and I was the rocker. Still am happy to be. Absolutely love all of that doof, and I love rock and roll, and give me some trance dance. I'm totally happy
Oh
with all
yeah,
of
trance dance. Ooh,
that
that's fun.
vital that vitality again. And this is the thing, maybe I'm going to forget what I was going to say here. I'll stay with it first of all. Is I remember a documentary, and one of the things that Mick Jagger said was that the one thing that kept them on track when they were very young is they had to pay for studio time. And he said, so they had to finish the song. That's my memory of it. And he said, because we would never have finished the song because you're any creative person, you're immediately dissecting and thinking, I could do, oh no, I need it. Or you've moved on in the next 5 minutes, not even in 5 years. So somewhere we just have to say, okay, this is the piece in this moment and we're done. And that's always been really useful for me to just breathe
Well,
and
we
say,
can't, we'll never publish the book because we're in the evolution and it's so
yeah,
fast and so
yeah,
rapid that like
oh,
we just have to put it out there and just see what happens. I'm recording the audio version of the second wave book now. And as I was recording it, I was reading it, I was like reading it back, like out loud. And I was like, oh, this is pretty good actually.
fantastic.
Wow,
Yeah,
cool. But then I also found all these typos and things I didn't catch because I didn't read it with my voice. And so all these typos, and I thought to myself, okay, this next book now, my husband already said he's gonna read it out loud so I can hear it and then we'll catch the typos or I'll read it out loud to him or something. So, but yeah, you just, there's always a typo in the book. There's always something you could fix. There's always something you could have said better. But we're on the journey and this is a constant evolution. I mean, the book that Richard put together is beautiful. It's also 600 pages. It's huge. So yeah.
that's and also that's also why he does so many other things. that are constantly being updated.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because we are a living wisdom. You know,
The
the
living
book is an
wisdom.
expression, the book is, as far as I'm concerned, an expression of living wisdom. And yes, you know, we might look back and, you know, in 30 years from now and say, oh, but it was
Doesn't
for
matter.
no, because the transmission, the energy is coming through the book. It's a living wisdom, you know, and I just love that about it. And I think of all the many things that I could say is that I had this sense, even at that first time when I met him, you know, and this was the same, you know, when I heard about human design, and it came about at the same time that I heard about them. I went to Richard first before I ever did any human design. And so I met him and found that transmission, and then realized, oh, there's roots to this. I have to go find out what the roots are. You know, I have to give my respect to what these roots are that we're moving from. And the piece that I saw as the development happened and the unfoldment of the sequences became more clear is that there's a mystical, magical experience available for anyone who wants to open to it within that golden path. But there is also the most practical wisdom, wisdom for your life, wisdom for how to transit through these scary, traumatic experiences in your life, perhaps, you know, how to hold yourself, how to recognize that there is a seeker in you, there is somebody who wants to know, who am I? What is this love that pours through me? Where am I stuck? How do these shadows, you know, some new person sees that word, first of all, you know, whatever it might be, the shadow word, and you go, is that, oh, that's me. You know,
Yeah,
so
I don't want that.
you have to, you know, just like when I heard, I was like, oh, I have to take a little breath. That's far too close for comfort. And then suddenly we realize these are not only collective archetypes; these are genetic
Mm.
archetypes, and
Yeah.
we're given a path that is so powerful through us. And yet, all 64 are contained within us. But here's the road. You are the only one who can walk it. This is the beauty of anything that's really real. And that's why Richard calls it self-illumination. So I can be your mentor, I could be your guide for anybody that would come to me and for anybody that comes to the programs of the Gene Keys. We create an amazing space, but you are the one who has to hold yourself. We are not therapists. We are
Yeah.
friends. We are friends walking the path
Friends.
together. We're sharing what we have found. We know the holes that you can fall in, and most of us are very capable there to hold you because we hold each other. And if something needs something else, then it's to take the responsibility. I need whatever else it is that I need. But this is a path for seekers and contemplatives to land on the other shore where the seeking is done. And I could see that there was something about it that was so engaging. And many of the other journeys that I've made with other, well, we'll say profiling, just to talk about the profile. And some of them are glorious and they will forever be in my heart, like the diamond work and the Enneagram and the essential states. It's part of my nature. And I wanted something that would feed the 5,000, actually. I get emotional when I say that, but I could see this is going to really go out into the world and touch people so that they can come in as gently or as deeply and they can flower in it, they can use it practically. You know, when we enter into Venus, you know, it's a powerful transmission of love. And when you enter the gate of love, you're going to find all the things that are boarded up through generations in your heart, not just you, you know, but the whole ancestral stream. You'll find all the courage, but all of the wounding, the grief and the sorrow. So it's not for the faint-hearted. You have to enter the gate wanting to be embodied in love more than you want breath. And that's when you have to hold yourself in these rebounds that we were talking about, because you know that what you're experiencing is transcendent. It's not only transformational, you know, it's that alchemical shift that comes in the DNA. And
Mm.
when you talked about the spiral goes to the next piece, and you look again, you go, oh God, not mum and dad again.
Yeah, there you are again, another level.
Haven't I dealt with that already? Yes, you have, but you've never had this point of awareness that you have now. You know, that's in it, this ancestry. You know, sometimes we think of ancestry and we think of our parents and our great grandparents, and if you take that on and on and on, you know, you're going to end up with a couple of thousand people over several lifetimes. And if you consider, we already know that transgenerational trauma is probably 15 generations that's embodied in this biological spacesuit. This is a computerized, amazing biology that's full of elemental wisdom that's saying, hey, it's all here. Come on, I'm with you. And I feel that kind of unfolding in it, that when we say ancestral, I don't know anymore. What am I talking about? What are these streams of consciousness? You know, I feel like they're all of the pantheons that many of us have played in, whether it's from Lyra or Vega or Andromeda or Arcturus or Pleiadian, or, you know, these are all these amazing streams that move through, and also the deep underworld of it also. You know, we have to be like Hades and Persephone at times, and work through that to allow the blessedness of this love to just emanate and radiate, so that there is no you and me or them and us anymore. There is only this purity of presence that shows up however it does. And sometimes it means love is accepting the unacceptable.
Totally. That comes up without,
Mm.
just accepting it without resolution or without apology or without understanding or without the things you think you need for completion. It's like, well, no, you just decide. Like,
Yeah,
leave.
but it's like somebody doesn't have to be wrong for me to be right. Sometimes we don't even have to be polarized. We just have to be going, wow, that's a different reality than mine.
Yeah, there's 8 billion different realities going on the planet about right now. So,
Yes.
and they overlap sometimes a tiny little bit.
And that's only in the human form, you know, there's no
Yeah,
saying.
we didn't even talk about the plants and the animals and the oceans and trees and
Yeah. Yeah, that's something that I'm wiggling a little bit here. That's something that is also going to be very present next year in the Jinkies community, because Rosie Aronson, who is the author of The Wisdom Keepers, she and Richard Rudd are preparing the Dream Arc. You know, because every all of the 64 streams also have a totem, you know, acidic, celestial, then the mammal is in the gift, and then the underworld creature is in the shadow, and all of them are bringing us treasure. So that's probably next
ah,
at the
ooh,
dream
that's
arc.
exciting.
Yeah, it's really exciting, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I
And
love
it
that.
and it adds an extra little tweak, you know, when you're thinking like you were talking about the 56 and intoxication, which I also have, and the dream arc mammal for the 56 is the mongoose. You know, and
Interesting.
yeah, and the mongoose has, apart from its ferocity, you know, and its relationship with snakes, it has that capacity to transform or transcend toxins. So the 56 is also about clearing out toxic energy, not only in yourself, but sometimes in other spaces, just by being intoxicated.
Yeah, just by being happy, just by feeling good, by really immersing in the experience, it just
And
clears it out. I've
yeah,
experienced that in my body where it just clears it out. Like I feel my body clearing it. I'll even burp or things like that because it just
yeah,
comes up, like in healings. If I'm just sharing the love, if I'm just in the love and I'm in the love vibration and I'm just really immersing in that feeling, then whatever the client's going through, then it's like the burps just come out. It's just like burp, burp. Oh, we got rid of some of that. And then they're like, oh, I feel so much lighter.
yeah, yeah. And I yawn.
I yawn too. I yawn, I cough. Yeah,
Yeah, it's
get
funny.
it out.
And it's like the long, it's like it moves through my body fast. So it's just transforming, as you say. Sometimes I'll get what I call body read, these little funny jitters.
I do get
It's,
those too.
yeah, it's like the electromagnetic field that, just moves it on, or it's quite beautiful, actually. It just shows how we're all connected,
People often ask me, like, what is that that happens with you? And I'm like, oh, it's just the way I don't know, it's electricity or something. It's like, or energy is moving in and out of me. I'm like what do you call that?
Conduit or a,
I'm a conduit, like a psychopomp. So
yeah.
like that's how the masters come into me, and then they do their thing and then they leave. And so like it just comes in and then it leaves. So
Yeah, and I want to say one more thing about something you said, because you came back about when I talked about 87, and well, I didn't know anything about human design then. I did hear about it in 1990, but I didn't participate in this big business program that had human design in it, and I thought I really want that, but no, it's too much. But during that awakening, that I mean, awakening, I feel, is like an ongoing experience, actually.
yeah.
Um, but there was something so present in that. And, many of us at that time, I'm going to make we statements, and some people hearing this will probably know themselves in it. There were intense programs, in that time, encounter programs and really tough programs that we put ourselves through. And then, of course, at some point, everybody started to realize, oh no, this is not the way. This is also torture and trauma. We're trying to beat ourselves up on a different level now. And then the gentleness started to come in,
Mm.
and the ownership and the pureness of, I am the only one that can experience my experience. I'm the only one here experiencing this. Well, there can be however many of us, but you're having your perception and your heart opening and your genetic living library speaking to you in this moment that is unique, and so am I. But during those times, I feel like these different waves that come in, I feel like we were battering at times on the density, not realizing that's what we were doing, but we were. Or as I perceive it, everybody else can have it however they perceive it, obviously. But there was something about that deep commitment to that ferocity, if you like, of wanting to break down it and break through. And I've heard some people say to me since these earlier times, oh, it's just so much easier for them now. They just seem to get it. Somebody that's, maybe my age or a little younger, a little older, kind of being a little bit miffed, that their 30-year-old went to a shamanic workshop or a contemplative experience or whatever, and just gets it, buys a book and suddenly starts talking about whatever. And they're looking at them going, did you see that? What did you think we were doing it for?
Mm-hmm.
What did
We
you think
paved the way.
for? You know, this is what we're here for, so that the waves coming after don't have to fall down all the same holes. Or at least, like I'm often saying to somebody, as a mentor or a guide, well, there's a hole there, you know what's there. You can go around it, or you can fall in it. Either way is totally fine. I'm just here. But we know the terrain.
Mm-hmm.
But whoever we're working with is the only one. I'm the only one that can walk my path. I am so grateful in my life for the great teachers and masters that I have spent time with. I am happy for the transmissions that moved through them, these particular qualities of wisdom that come through different unique beings that each of us are attracted to in our own way, whoever they might be, that start to open up these inner libraries. And I look at things and I gain some wisdom from that and think, wow, and it changes something in me. So I don't have to fall down that same hole now. But if I do, I go, oh, I'm in that hole.
Oh, that's where I am.
You know, and sometimes I'm decorating in my hole. You know, I've been in. Oh, I'm in. I've put up my favorite picture. I've got my comfy chair. I'm just in there because I've gone melancholy, or I feel sorry for me. I'm not ready to get out yet. You know, I'm having a wallow. You know, and then it's you know, at some point you stick your head out above it, go, what's it
Yeah,
like out there just now?
yeah.
You know,
I think I'll
and
come out and play now.
yes, you know, or I'll say, okay, how long do you want to wallow? You know, just, and that's the difference in awareness. Instead of blaming the outside
Mm,
or feeling victimized or oppressed or whatever it is that's going on, I'm the one having the experience. Something has triggered it, and I'm in it now. It
mm-hmm.
doesn't matter where it came from. It's not about the other. That's actually the blessing, because if without that situation, I couldn't experience this. And if I didn't need this experience, I would not be having it.
Yeah, that's that right there, right there. If I didn't need it, I wouldn't be having it. I had a moment of that earlier today where even like a couple weeks ago, I would have gone down the tunnel of it. And today I was like, wait a second. No, it's not about them. Let me experience this. That's okay. And to just be with that, right? And just feel it. So I felt the longing for my son because he popped back by to give us his key and he couldn't touch me because of the mask and the whole, because he's, and I had that moment of I can't hug my son. And so rather than going into the story about, oh, they're so fearful, da, 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 all that, I just stopped and I went, no, it's not about them. This is my opportunity to feel what it feels like to not be able to hold my son. And that feels like sad, So I was able to really feel that longing to hold him, that longing to put my arms around him and that awkwardness of him standing like 6 feet away and the whole, whoo, that feeling. That was for me to experience my own love for my son, like just how much I love him. So I
I,
agree with you. Yeah.
I think they're so beautiful in hearing you say that, you know, because I think the truth of life for me is I've always been on the path of love, you know, whichever door I have entered, you know, and as a presenter or, you know, over many years, you know, I've worn lots of different hats, you know, or there's a workshop for this or that or that or this. Actually, they're all going to the same place, which is home.
Mm.
You know, and for me, home is love and truth and freedom. And we are the ecstatics that we seek. And there's a journey to be made. You know, we are on that mythical journey of our own, but our Medusas and our Gorgons are all in here. You know, these are the ones that were looking like you chop off one head and up pops
There's
another one.
another one.
Yeah, so there's
But at
that
least
game.
you can validate what heads are popping up when you look at gene keys. You go, oh, there's the judgment head. Oh, I know that one well. You know, there's the perspective head. Oh, I got that one too. So
Yeah.
it's like it's just so you have a map. It gives you a map for what's going on inside of you. So you're not like just spinning around in a circle or in a maze and not one like, how do I get out of here? It's like, oh, that's what that is. Okay. And
And
there it
that's
is.
and that's what I meant when I said it's practical, pragmatic, and mystical. So, like in some of these things I've been in the past, I can see how people can get really confused. Well, am I this or am I that? Or yes, but there's a bit of that and there's a bit of this. And this is just like, here you are, go play, see what happens. You
Here's your
know?
playground.
Here, yeah, just open these doors first and see what happens. And then it's like when I hear you talk about your son, it also brings me to this all these different qualities of love. You know, in the English language, we just have that word, love. You know, in other languages, there's so many expressions and different words for love. You know, there's your love of a child, the love of the other, the deep longing for the communion with the inner beloved. You know, there's all the love of the planet. And what are these sweet distinctions? What are they offering us? What is the nectar held in there? To me, this is the path of love. You know,
Mhm.
and of course it's very much that in in human form, it's very much about what is the object of desire, who is the significant other. And that's equally as important, this pure love that wants to be expressed and experienced with that other. And at the same time, there is a transcendent love that has no object. It simply is. It's the glue that brings the holy truth. It's the holding that does not allow the dishonesty. It's the whole.
Mm-hmm.
It's the holding that holds that space and patience to say it's okay. You can be transparent. Love
Totally. Yes.
and allows the full flowering of all of the potential and the purpose and all of the sequences until suddenly there is no need for a map, or a compass. Suddenly that inner aliveness is all that is there, moment to moment to moment, just that inner yes to the moment.
Oh, it's so beautiful. Gosh, it's so good. Woo! People. Oh my goodness. Tanmayo. Dang, woman.
Thank you.
That's
It's been.
amazing. I love you. I just want you to know that. Like, I just love you so
I think
much.
it's a definite mutual society. I mean, I knew as soon as I saw your picture that I would say yes, and it was so. I love that tentative way that we both engaged in having coffee together. It took all of about 10 and a half seconds for us to
Yeah,
just go,
yeah,
oh, yes, I love this person.
we're just like having coffee and
Yeah.
chatting about but we already knew. We're like, okay. And then we had like an hour-long discussion or more of that time too. So
Gorgeous.
beautiful. Well,
Thank you so much for this invitation. It's just been an absolute pleasure.
it's been such a joy. And, I know that everybody is going to be interested in Gene Keys, and they're also going to be interested in you and your other work that you do outside of Gene Keys. So I'm going to provide links to all the places that you can find Tanmayo, and also her work with Gene Keys and her work on her own, because she's just a genius in her own right. And gosh, you guys just have to check this stuff out. I mean, seriously, if you don't do anything more than just go look up your free chart and download a contemplation or two, it'll blow your mind. Okay, so just trust me on that one. And by the way, like, leave a comment on here. Actually, this is your invitation for action, is to actually go do that. Go download your free chart, and there's actually you'll get a free contemplation, so you don't have to do anything but listen to it, and then come back and report. Did it blow your mind? Like, did it really blow your mind? And come back and report on wherever you found this broadcast. It was on iTunes or YouTube or wherever you found it. Just, give us some feedback so we can check back in with you. And, sign up for this amazing woman and all she's offering, and the love series and all of this beautiful, yummy stuff. Why not? You guys felt how good it feels. I'm high right now. Like, I'm totally stoned. So
Thank you.
thank you, Tanmayo. I appreciate
Thank
that.
you. And I do say up front that when you get to my website, it definitely needs some work, but
Well, somebody's been a little immersed in Gene Keys, so we forgive
yes,
you.
but on the Gene Key site, please, yes, get your profile. There's lots of free resources. It's really glorious. Thank you for having me. It's been an absolute joy.
Thank you. Well, I'm going to give everybody kisses now. So if you want to join me, we're going to give kisses.
Oh, great.
Thank you all for coming along. Please do check out the Gene Keys. Please do leave us a review on this episode, and please do leave a comment and let us know what you thought about the Gene Keys contemplation. That's your action. I would love you to take it. I invite you to take it. And let's give kisses. Here come your kisses. Thank you for tuning in and staying with us. We love you.
Thank you.
Bye for now, everybody. See you next time on Soul Nectar Show.